Personal insecurity is a subject that I've devoted my best adult thinking to solving. I'm convinced it is a solvable problem. Most people think the best you can do is manage it, and that is most people's strategy: mask, manage, medicate. But I'm convinced not only can you solve the problem, you must. It's actually your most important adult work to free yourself from the insecurity of your childhood. But it seems too daunting. The amount of angst most people feel toward this problem means it's prohibitive. I would say the vast majority of human beings will go their entire life without setting themselves free. They'll get stuck inside a narrative of fear that says they are somehow inadequate, not good enough, don't belong, and they'll try and prove and defend, run and hide for the rest of their life. And it's a descent into madness. If you don't find your way out of insecurity, the only way of describing what happens is madness. It will ruin you. It will eat you from the inside out. All your best energy going to prove and defending yourself will get ugly. And so my work is to provide a way into this problem, to provide a solution. And I'm convinced that perhaps the only way in, if you've built up a great amount of angst towards insecurity as an issue in your life, is to gamify it. Gamification as a theory is to apply game structure to non-game domains, to treat things that don't appear to be a game as though they were. Now, the moment you see something as a game, then the obvious question that arises is, how does the game work? What are the rules of the game? What's the game structure? Then you give yourself a chance of playing the game well. And so I would say that to treat insecurity as a game is life and death. It is the only way in. The moment you see it as a game, it's breathtaking, it's stunning. It is a game that if you had the opportunity to strengthen, heal, mature, and perfect a human being, you would set up the game just like this. You wouldn't find a way to set this up better if you were somehow outside of the human experience designing it for those you cared about. When you see it this way, it'll change everything. So there are a few ways into this game theory to understand how it works. Let me start with the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, his great work was to summarize and deconstruct storytelling throughout time. Why do we love some stories? Why do some stories motivate us, inspire us, draw us in, and other stories leave us uninspired? He discovered that throughout time, the stories that touch our hearts have a common story arc. He mapped it, modelled it, called it the hero's journey, and Hollywood have intentionally, cleverly matched that and written scripts that follow the hero's journey. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Indiana Jones, The Karate Kid. It's all a weak person becomes strong. Now, if you were to step back and examine your own heart as to why it's drawn into those stories, it's because you find yourself in those stories. Those stories are your stories. It's the story you were born for. You start out weak and you are on a journey of destiny to become who you can be. And when you see it dramatically, it makes sense of it. You love the fact that a weak person becomes strong by having to overcome resistance, overcome obstacles, find their way through challenges. If you see a strong person, a person who starts out strong, maintains strength, or where's the drama in that story? Or if you see a weak person magically become strong, it's just, there is no intrigue. That is not an appealing story at all. But when a weak person, against all odds, in the face of great opposition and great difficulty, insurmountable, impossible chances, yet still finds a way, those stories touch our hearts. And so you would want your own journey to be exactly the same. You would want it to be one of resistance, obstacles, hardships, impossibilities. And so if you were to consider it as a script, if you were to consider that the writing of that script would have to introduce resistance, and would do so by providing characters. So people would be written into your script and their central role would be to resist your progress. Now, this might be a bridge too far, but just try this on for a moment. We understand that the role of the archetypal bully is to oppress the victim, and so the victim can, in the face of great resistance, find their voice, find their power and stand up against the bully. And when they do, they'll never be the victim again. So a case could be made to be grateful for the difficulty the bully provided, because it provided real resistance, real obstacle, real challenge for the victim to find internal strength. If they had not that external opposition, they would not have had reason to discover who they really were. So a case can be made to be grateful for the bully. The temptress the same, to lure the hero away from their heart, to give them a shortcut, a cheat, a way of speeding up the desire without any of the costs. And yet, when the hero is faced with those dilemmas, they know there's something wrong about it. They know what their heart wants. They know they're going to regret those decisions. And so, again, a case can be made for a very alluring, exotic temptress to be written into the script to provide a very easy opportunity to betray one's own heart so that it's real. Now, archetypal parents are the same. I know you've all had real mothers and fathers, but imagine for a moment they are characters written into the script of your life, written into the hero's journey, and their central role, therefore, is to resist you. In fact, I'd go so far as to say the central role of the archetypal parent is to confuse their child about who they really are. If you can imagine it like this, when you enter into the world, you are born into a kingdom. King and queen are on the throne. It is their kingdom that you were born into, and it's a world that doesn't suit you. It's a world of someone else's rules, of someone else's map, and you must fit in. And if you don't comply as a subject of that kingdom, it does not go well for you. And so you adapt yourself to the surroundings so that you belong. And in the process, you confuse about what is sacred and central to you, sometimes for the rest of your life. Always a subject of a foreign kingdom. The central role of your parents is therefore to confuse you about who you are, not to love and support you. Think of it like this. Growing up in church youth groups was a very fun experience for me in many ways. I can remember some of the games we used to play. One such game, I'm not sure how the youth group leaders got away with it. They might not get away with it today, but nevertheless, it serves as a great example for this idea. I can remember being blindfolded in the back of a ute with 15 or 20 other teenagers. One of the youth group leaders owned a farm that bordered on the national park, and we were driven around for an hour and then randomly dropped one by one out into the bush. And we were told to wait 5 minutes and then take our blindfold off and find our way home. Now, that sounds like quite a dangerous exercise. But the only danger happened if you didn't think, if you panicked. All you had to do was just consider the game structure. How is this game set up? And if you thought about it, you'd realise that if it's a game, well, my youth group leaders don't really want to go to jail. It's not going to serve them if I die. So it's unlikely. In fact, let's say it's impossible that they've dropped me somewhere that is impossible to return from. They actually want me to feel lost and confused right now. They haven't driven me around for an hour and dumped me 50 metres from the house so that I can see the laundry door through the bushes when I take my blindfold off, because that game would be pointless. There would be no intrigue, no drama. They've dropped me in a place that I will not know where I am when I take my blindfold off. But they're confident that if I can climb a tree, get up to the top of a hill, I'll get my bearings, I'll find something vaguely familiar, and I will navigate my way home. And they're confident that that will actually give me a beautiful experience. That's the point of the game. Feeling genuinely lost and confused means that I will access adrenaline and excitement. It'll be high risk, which will require high skill. There's a chance for flow. There's a chance for meaning. There's a chance for excitement. And the victory, the return will be all the more rewarding. I am supposed to feel lost and confused. Think about that for a moment. Every adult comes into their adult years lost and confused, but most of us are complaining about it, wishing that wasn't so. Fantasizing about a different childhood with different parents, better experiences. If only this had happened or that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't be so lost and confused, but I am. And therefore I will be forever separate from my destiny, and I'll do the best that I can, but I am wounded and lost and afraid and alone. If you can see that that is not a glitch in the game, that's the setup. No one survives their childhood without developing limiting beliefs about themselves. Even perfect parents do not prevent their child developing doubt and fear and insecurity. It's not possible, and nor is it desirable. We don't survive in perfect conditions. We require resistance. You don't go into the gym to lift air, you go find heavy things. It's in the process of overcoming heavy things that you become stronger. And so feeling lost and confused about who you are, insecure, afraid, anxious, that's not a glitch in the game, that is the setup. Everything changes. This is ancient wisdom. Everything changes the moment you realise life does not happen to you, it happens for you. It's a setup. The tragedy is not the wounds of your childhood. That is not the tragedy. That is unavoidable. That is the setup. The tragedy is that adults do not know it is their job to find their way home and stay lost and confused for the rest of their life. It is a hard game, yes, but we only play games that are hard. If a game is too easy, there is no intrigue, there is no reason to play. For a game to be meaningful, we must have a very real opportunity to lose the game. Therefore, winning is real also. There is no other way. If you were setting this game up for someone else, you would make it real. It is a setup for you too. So here is the game. You were born into a family, relaxed about your own value and worth. Every infant's experience of themselves is one of enoughness. There is no transactions being made. They're not paying board. They're not cleaning the kitchen. They're not contributing to the household. And yet their needs are being met perfectly. The moment something is less than ideal, they squawk, they scream, they cry, they demand action, and they are met at the level of those demands. Every infant has that experience, at least for some period of their life. But as you age, the game changes. And we are sense-making creatures. We don't just have experiences, we must interpret those experiences. Why is this happening? What does it mean about me? And so invariably, a child goes into the world relaxed, at ease, comfortable with their enoughness, unguarded, not assuming anything could possibly go wrong, and then something does. It is a shock. It is a surprise. It is an embarrassment. And in those moments, they implicate themselves. They assume the only reason these things are happening that are unfortunate, unfair, not fun, painful, disappointing, upsetting, embarrassing is because of their own inadequacy. Every child implicates themselves and therefore begins a process of becoming lost and confused about themselves. But that is how it must be. The game starts not really with the childhood. The game starts in your adult years. You come into your adult life confused, and then you have to find your way home. Can you work out who you really are before you got confused? If you'd never lost the sense of who you really were in the first place, perhaps you take it for granted. Perhaps it wouldn't be meaningful to you. But to recover lost treasure, that is extraordinary. That is the hero's journey. A man or woman searches the whole world for hidden treasure only to discover they had it with them all along, all the way back at the beginning. You've always been enough. That's never the problem. You just got confused and didn't discover your confusion was a misunderstanding and so lived as though it was true. If you can consider the wounds, the difficulty, the resistance, the opposition, the misfortune, the injustice, is all a beautiful part of the setup, so that you genuinely feel lost and confused. Then you can rejoice in how hard this is and lean in and understand the game is winnable. The game is not impossible. Of course you can find your way home because it is a misunderstanding. Your fears are a work of fiction. They are not founded on anything. The fun that I have as someone invited into the conversation about insecurity is the simple idea, the simple question around, do you even know what you are afraid of? And no one does. I've never met a person who knows what they are running and hiding from. They know they are running and hiding, but they've never turned to look. Yoda says, named must your fear be, before banish it you can. You are not afraid of what others think of you. You are afraid of what you think of you. You just do not want your fears confirmed by the world. You were the one that decided there was a problem with you, and you are the only one who can change your mind. It is supposed to be hard. It is supposed to feel impossible, and yet it isn't. The obstacle is the way. The thing that seeks to impede your path is the path. This is a game set up for you to win. And as you win it, everybody wins. That is the hero's journey. The hero does the thing that they cannot do, and yet they must. And they receive the reward and bring it home, and everyone shares in the prize.